Hey guys, and welcome to my first edition of Wrestling Through the Week. An interesting week for wrestling, some highs, some lows, not a classic week, but certainly not the worst week we've experienced in a while. The week opened with Raw, as ever. Not a good show by any stretch of the imagination. Once again, certainly I would say it was the weakest aspect of WWE programming throughout the week. Much better than last week's Raw, but last week's Raw was, of course, the nadir of all wrestling programming, the Piven incident, the Summerfest incident. It couldn't possibly have been as bad as it was last week. Piven and Dr. Ken were repugnant entirely. This was still bad, but not as bad. There was less involvement of the guest host. Sergeant Slaughter as a guest host was terrible. Sergeant Slaughter embodies to me the kind of things about early 90s wrestling that certainly should have been left in the early 90s. His promo is awful. It's clumsy, it's stumbling, it's not fluid in any way whatsoever. It's all based on obvious stereotype military sort of references, which anybody could do. And Slaughter wasn't even any good in the ring back in the day, so it kind of irritated me that he was here. I'm pretty sure the only reason he was there was because they have to have a guest host at the moment and they couldn't find anybody else to do it. He cut some very uninteresting promos, in fact some really bad promos throughout the show that were just kind of anti-Canadian promos because they were in Canada. He dragged out Jillian to sing the Canadian national anthem. Callum pointed this out earlier in the week. Why is Jillian not released? It's not just that she can't wrestle, she's not attractive. He dragged out Hacksaw Jim Duggan to wave out an American flag, who we've not seen in months. How is he not released either? This was after he had said he was going to introduce Bret Hart and Bret Hart's music had come on. That would have been great if Shawn Michaels hadn't already cut that promo. Possibly the best promo of Shawn Michaels' entire career. It's not original. It wasn't good because I'd seen that moment before. If I'd never seen that moment before, I'd have probably thought that was really clever. But as it stood, it wasn't. Other things of note about the show, Jack Swagger and Evan Bourne had another alright match, quite good. Evan Bourne beaten clean again after the Swagger bomb. I'm puzzling as to where I feel Evan Bourne really sits within the MVP Jack Swagger feud, but I really hope that MVP and Jack Swagger have a good wrestling match at SummerSlam, because otherwise there's nothing worth watching on Raw, really, nothing at all. There was a Divas match on Raw that was actually quite good. Gail Kim defeated Beth Phoenix, Alicia Fox and Kelly Kelly in a fatal four-way. Three of those Divas are at least have good potential. Gail Kim is of course really good, Beth Phoenix is pretty good, and Kelly Kelly, I swear she has bags of potential, at least by the standards of a WWE diva. Alicia Fox is awful, but as Mickie James is the champion and Maurice is injured, she was the preferable alternative to Rosa Mendez, I feel. This match was the first Divas match I've seen in ages that had any semblance of pace to it. Nice sequences, nice attempt at keeping it flowing and keeping it fast. It was a step in the right direction for me. Good to see Gail Kim get some recognition now that she's back. Finally, she won't win because I can't see her beating Mickie James in a face versus face competition, but still nice that she's getting some kind of opportunity of being associated with a title at all. There was some bad promo on this show. John Cena delivered a very bizarre promo against Randy Orton, where he did, John Cena seems to do two things in terms of promo. He does his I'm trying to be really funny promo, or his I'm trying to be really angry promo. It was the latter this time, and whenever John Cena does that, it doesn't seem to make an awful lot of sense. It's never really contextualized very well, and Cena becomes extremely irritating when he does it. So I didn't really enjoy that promo against Orton, and what I really didn't enjoy after that was when the Big Show and Chris Jericho showed up. It started a whole week long, and this is where I think they're going with this. They're not just portraying Chris Jericho as the brains of the operation in this tag team. He's not just being portrayed as the one who comes up with the ideas, who, kind of relies on the bigger man to save his skin in terms of physical power sometimes. No, they're booking Chris Jericho as someone who's all mouth and can't beat anyone. They're booking him as someone that you would not believe was a world champion recently. You would not believe is a record-breaking intercontinental champion. And they're booking the Big Show, Paul White, a man who, as far as I can see, hasn't done anything to deserve any kind of push ever, as literally the strongest man in the whole company. Why? Why would you do that? Nobody wants to see that. The Big Show, as Shaquille O'Neal pointed out, is fat, and he's rubbish. I was getting very irritated at the way this is being booked, and I think it's going to continue, and this will come up again as we go through the week. What else? We had some very horrible segments during this show, during which Triple H is searching for Shawn Michaels in backstage segments at some kind of office where Shawn Michaels is supposed to be a chef in the catering room. This involved a kind of homophobic promo incident with someone that Triple H mistakes for Shawn Michaels and refers to as sexy boy, and also involved Shawn Michaels super kicking a small girl in the face. It was horrible. It was Triple H and Shawn Michaels slapping each other on the back and saying, "Look how hilarious we are," as they usually do. They don't pull it off. It was painful. I didn't enjoy it at all, and I doubt that many other people did. Some of you probably did, and if you did, that's fair enough. I can see why you might have done. I could see how this might actually have appealed to some people. It just didn't do it for me. We had a very annoying thing for me. Callum quite liked the idea of the contract on a pole match where The Miz in disguise defeated Eugene. I hated it. The reason I hated it was because I thought when The Miz was buried last week by John Cena, he was going to be given some kind of new direction or new lease of life, but no, he just got buried. He's now going to be back on Raw in the same position he was in the first place, as the bottom of the card. This guy's career, as far as I can see, is going nowhere, and it's a shame because his promo was quite good. We featured a horrible moment where Randy Orton literally ran away from the Big Show out of their match. Ran away. Why? Again, the Big Show being booked ridiculously strongly against the champion. It was, annoying to see that happen. Nothing much else happened. Legacy beat Hornswoggle and Mark Henry. I kind of like that Mark Henry's push is stalled and he's been lumbered with Hornswoggle because I don't want his push to go anywhere. I would rather they would have pushed Goldust, the last person to be associated with Hornswoggle. Legacy win after Ted DiBiase is allowed a whole pinfall over Hornswoggle, but it was wonderful to see Hornswoggle get hit with Dream Street because I hate him. I was annoyed that Jericho wasn't just allowed to be over with the home crowd on this show. Jericho was in Canada on his home turf. I don't understand why, they tried to make him heel in spite of this through promo for him to take on John Cena at the end of the evening. If they're able to allow William Regal to be a face when he comes back to England just because he's in England, then I don't see why they can't let Jericho do it in Canada. It didn't really work because the Canadian crowd wouldn't get behind John Cena, and in one of many occasions throughout the evening where Jerry Lawler said some really suspect things about Canadian people, like really, really dodgy things about how they're weird and how they just don't get things. He, said that they weren't getting behind Cena because everything's backwards in Canada. No, Lawler. The reason they don't want to cheer for John fucking Cena is because even though he is not the worst performer in the company, he is probably the main reason that professional wrestling is struggling right now. And he is also, and I will tell you this for free, John Cena is the main reason that most of the people I know who watched wrestling at one point stopped. So take from that what you will, but don't blame Canadian people for not wanting to get behind John Cena. Blame John Cena. This match was a no contest at the end when Orton ran down. It was an alright match. Jericho always looks good. And another one of my favourite things this week was Cena had Jericho up for the attitude adjustment and Orton RKO's him off Cena's position. Jericho kind of landed a bit on his neck. Chris Jericho was one of very few people that would take that move in the company, and I liked the way that it was done. So yeah, this Raw was an improvement, but still pretty bad. Sergeant Slaughter was yet another terrible guest host, and I was particularly alarmed, as I would continue to be throughout the week, at the booking of The Big Show. I'm going to move on, and in the next part, I think I'm going to discuss... I'm going to try and discuss all three of the other shows, but I might have to split it up a bit because I've overrun here. Now, I'm going to try and do all three in the next segment. So, cheers, guys, and switch over to part 2.